Who Was Maya Angelou, written by Ellen Lebrecq, illustrated by Didi Putra, and book talk by Jordan Kamba. The Who Was series is a series written for children that includes over 150 biographies. It also includes books about places, events, and even famous characters. These books are concise and informational, so they offer a good introduction to readers that want to be introduced to a concept or a person. This series has been very successful. It's been on the New York Times bestsellers list. This book goes into Maya Angelou's life. She was born on April 4th, 1929 in Missouri. Maya was actually a nickname given to her by her older brother, who could not pronounce her real name, which is Marguerite. She lived in Missouri, Arkansas, and California as a child, and according to the book, she fell in love with words. She became known as a famous poet, memoirist, and activist, but she was also an actress, a singer, and a teacher, and this book goes into all of these different roles she had throughout her lifetime. She worked with Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X during the Civil Rights Movement, and she met with 3 presidents and received the Medal of Freedom before she died in 2014. What I liked about this book was that it began with her speaking at President Clinton's inauguration. So from the beginning, you understand that she was a very important person and the kind of impact that she made. Some of the pages provide context, such as explaining segregation, the Harlem Writers Guild, the Civil Rights Movement, and Malcolm X, that just provide more information for the reader as they're reading through this book. I also like that it did not avoid mentioning the abuse that Maya Angelou experienced whenever she was a child. It explained things in a very direct way, but it was still appropriate for young readers. And I liked that this book wasn't choppy. It's concise, but it still flowed nicely. So it included figurative language like this metaphor. Despite a tough childhood, Maya used her voice. She became a rainbow for the whole world to see. One of the connections that I found while I was reading this was this documentary I watched recently called What Happened, Miss Simone, that explained Nina Simone's life. And both of these women were artists and activists, and they used their voices to spread their message. After the deaths of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, they both were affected differently. Nina became kind of angry and withdrawn, and she ended up moving to Africa. Whereas Maya was able to use her sadness and her experience to be productive. And she wrote, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. So that's her memoir. To learn more about her life, that would be a good place to start. There's also a bibliography and a timeline at the back of Who Was Maya Angelou that offer more suggestions for young readers to learn about Maya Angelou and her life.